Hello, everyone. Again, welcome to CEO Growth Talks. I'm Pete Hayes, principal at Chief Outsiders, and it's my pleasure to introduce friend of Chief Outsiders, Kyle Buckett, who's been with Chief Outsiders other programs before. Yeah, and I'm cheating a little bit because Kyle is also a growing friend. I'll say good friend. We only met each other
That's right.
earlier this year, but he's also a bud here in Austin, Texas. His title on his markup here says author. And that's true. And it's really important because he's written an awesome book that we're going to talk about today. Leadership is Overrated. And I just love the big strike through the leadership on the cover. So we're going to talk about that. But Kyle draws from incredible experience as a business leader. As a business leader in the classic sense, as he's been the COO of a large company, he's also in stealth mode in a startup company as the business leader. But he will tell you, being a Navy SEAL and literally a multi-decade veteran, that running the business of the Navy SEALs is like running any large organization and a global organization with global operations and supply chain issues and everything else. So Kyle can relate to the issues that you're facing in your business. And we're going to focus a lot today on business performance as it relates to leadership and even how that intersects with culture. One of the main things Kyle does these days is bring out his culture force organizations, his organization, into both mid-size and larger companies to help them tackle some of their toughest leadership challenges. So welcome, Kyle. So glad you're here.
No, this is going to be great. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so first of all, we got to get the family stuff out of the way. You're married with...
Married, beautiful wife. We actually just celebrated our 19th wedding anniversary down doing one of my favorite things, which is going to Mexico and I getting to surf my brains out, being back at the hotel at 8:30, 9 a.m. And she's just waking up from a beauty sleep. And then we get to spend the rest of the day. So we got to celebrate 19 years of marriage bliss with our three beautiful children who are 6, 9, and 11. It goes girl, girl, boy. And they're with grandma and grandpa right now. So the house is pretty quiet, which is also nice.
You were having kids while you were still a SEAL, but
I was, but Candace and I had actually waited almost a decade. There was a period in my career where my life expectancy was about a 2 to 3 month life expectancy due to the nature of the job and due to the zones that I was deploying to and the regions of the world that I was deploying to, the work that I was undertaking. So we made a conscious decision to actually hold off for quite some time. That's why our kids are still pretty young. But yeah, we did. My first daughter, first kid, I'll never forget. She was 4 months old. On the day she turned 4 months old, I left and I came back and she was a year old.
yeah. Wow. Well, good for you with all how challenging that is. Thank you for your service and your leadership of...
Like I always say, thanks for paying your taxes.
Well, and it's not just you led a half a dozen teams through the desert and took the hill. I mean, you've led teams of what, 5, 6, 800 people?
Yeah, my largest operation actually. So I got to do a lot of things, everything from lone man, single man operations, all the way up to leading my largest operation, which was an 800-man Marine element through a clearance operation in southern Kaligaz, Afghanistan, southern Helmand. We had 24 tanks, 24 helicopters on insertion, Army Corps of Engineers with around 23 vehicles. We had 7 fast moving jets on a constant orbit over a week period. The total assets under management, or AUM, of the operation far exceeded $1.6, $1.7 billion. Probably one of the largest operations I've ever conducted. So, and then everything in between. Like I said, I got to be a plank owner, we call it, at a military startup where we started a new SEAL team back in 2006. I think there was 8 of us when we started that command with a very small budget. And now that command has around 512
Okay.
people.
All right. Okay, Kyle. Yeah, you've established yourself. You know how
No,
to
no, no,
run,
I'm just saying.
you know how to run large organizations and multi-billion dollar enterprises that are just literally in operation rather than something that goes on forever. But I'm going to take you right to the beginning of your book because it was absolutely a heart-pounding moment when your book opens up literally with the message that leadership is overrated. And you described yourself on an overlook of some sort. And you just want to take us through that story? because it's just incredible.
So that was the big operation that I was just referencing. We're clearing through a 4 by 7 mile stretch of land that I was referencing earlier as we were about to embed in the weeks to come a footprint of Navy SEALs there to continue our operations of village stability operations. What we were doing as we're clearing through a 4 by 7 mile stretch of land is the Marines were doing cordon and search throughout the days and using the daylight hours to move through the valley. And myself and a small contingent of Navy SEALs were often, based on intelligence, based on analysis, threat assessments, etc., we would follow along on a ridge line very close to them, maybe a click and a half away, but we could see them through our goggles or our optics, etc. We would shadow them on a ridge line. In this particular day, we were shadowing them, and we saw a small contingent of Taliban maneuvering to set up an ambush on the Marines out of the valley. So quickly, myself and my JTAC said, "Hey, let's hold on. Let's get to a better vantage point so we can call in an airstrike." Or a HIMAR in this sense, which is an artillery weapon, actually, that's on the back of a vehicle, maybe 20, 30 miles away. Anyway, in this sense, we actually we scurried up a hill to get a better vantage point before we started to call in a strike to prevent our Marines from getting wounded or killed. As soon as we get up there, I'm on my radio, my joint terminal air controlman is on his radio. We have our backs to each other. And all of a sudden, he just elbows me to the rib really quickly. I look at him like, "Hey, dude, what are you doing? We don't have time for shenanigans," kind of thing. Like, we got to get down. We got to get up here. We got to laze the target, confirm all the friendly positions. We've got to confirm air positions. I give him that look like, "Hey, you know all of this. Now's not the time for horseplay. Like, we have seconds to be up here. We're extremely exposed. At any moment, an RPG, artillery fire, whatever could come towards us. We're extremely exposed. It's the middle of the day. We don't operate in the day for the most part. We operate at night." So I give him that look, and he just looks back at me, and he's just like, and he's pointing his finger straight to the ground. And I just look down at the ground, and I'll never forget it. I look down at the ground, and it's clear as day that we're standing on an IED, clear as day. I'm just like, "You've got to be kidding me, right? This is how I'm going to go out. This is it. This is how I'm going to go out. This is ridiculous." After
Now you don't set something like this off by standing on it, but
you
by
can,
okay.
there's multiple variations, but for the listener, this particular variation of improvised explosive device, meaning what an IED is, it's a third world booby trap. And this particular one was a what we call a pressure release as opposed
Mm.
to like a pressure plate, in the sense that when we stepped on it, it engaged the mechanism so that the second that we stepped off and removed our weight from the mechanism, it was supposed to detonate. We realized that because the moment we step on it, we're already on it and it hadn't gone off, right? So we know that the moment we step off, this thing's going to blow. So now what do? We're extremely exposed, RPG at any point, AK at any point. Everyone can see us. We're only supposed to be there for a second or two. Is get up there, look, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, we're good. Get down. And I remember looking at my buddy, and again, this is not a hero's act. He was significantly lighter than me. At the time, with all my gear on and my kit, I was pushing around 300 pounds. He was probably pushing 215 pounds. I've got him by 85 pounds, give or take. And so it wasn't a hero's act. I just said, "Hey, man, you first. Maybe one of us lives." And as I'm saying that to him, he's about to argue. And I hear audibly, I believe God or an angel or the Holy Spirit, one of the three. It was the voice of pure authority, pure authority, unlike anything I've ever heard before, and pure autonomy. It just said, "I've got you." And I'll never forget. I'm like, "Whoa." I'm like, I look at him. I'm like, "Did you hear that?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Did I hear what you said?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Sure, yeah. Did you yeah, you hear what I said? He goes, "Yeah, are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude. I think God's got us on this. But if I'm going crazy up here, like you first." And he's like about to argue, and I'm like, "Hey, maybe one of us gets down." He's like, "Yeah, you fat jerk," kind of as a joke. And I'm like, "Hey, tell Candace I love her. Tell her." And he goes, "If I live, of course I'm going to tell her that." So he gets off and he runs down the hill. And as soon as he gets down to within minimum safe distance, we call it MSD. As soon as he's at MSD, I hear him on the radio call out, "Hey, Buck, me. Buck's on an IED. This is our grid. This is our coordinates. Can we get explosive ordnance disposal guys, EOD? Can we get the EOD guys over here to deal with this situation?" And they're like, "Yeah, Roger that. It's going to be 90 minutes." Oh, you don't have 90 minutes. In fact, I'm only supposed to be out there for a couple of seconds. And I'm looking around like I'm just waiting for an RPG to hit me. I'm waiting for a mortar
Yeah.
to come flying in. I'm waiting for me to be lit up with AK fire. Because again, I'm standing. I'm not like crunched down I'm not moving anything either, because now I'm like a frozen statue just sitting there, because I'm like, am I going to set this thing off? And I remember I'm like, all right, back to the situation. I'm like, okay, a million things. I'm like, hey, God, I just think I heard you. He's now safe. My buddy's safe. He's down at the bottom of the hill. He's safe. He's good. But like, Lord, did I just hear you? Because if I didn't hear you, I'm going crazy. Like, what's going on? And I hear it again. "I've got you." Man. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, Lord, this is amazing. Like, I believe this is you. I'm not denying this is you. But if it's not you, again, right? All the things are going through your
You're
head.
checking back in. Okay.
Right,
Sure
right,
about
right.
this. Okay.
God, please forgive me of all my sins. Please take care of my wife, right? All the sins start going, because now you're like, all right, I'm about to die. If this isn't God and I'm just going crazy, like I better make sure I'm good. I'm like, Lord, please forgive me. I've been a bad boy, right? And I hear it again a third time. "I've got you." At that moment, I go, okay, I know that's you, Lord. And so then I step off, I run down the hill, and I'm safe. I'm fine. EOD guys get over there 3 hours later, 2.5 hours later. We had marked it and everything. They unearthed what was the equivalent of 10 pounds of TNT, 9 inches under the surface of the dirt. And if that thing had gone off, both myself and my JTAC, if we had lived, we would not have our low extremities. We would not have our reproductive organs. My 3 children that I was just talking about would not be here today.
Yeah.
And neither would his 2 beautiful daughters, who we love dearly. The EOD guy, after he does his forensics, he's like, wow, that plate, you guys definitely set it in motion. But when you guys stepped off, something just held it and it never went off. Something was just holding it. He goes, "Thank God, huh?" And slaps me on the back and scurries away. And I'm like, "You have no idea." You have no idea.
All right. So that's my favorite story. And it sets up the whole book, because the question becomes, well, what if you'd been taken out?
Well, I said, if I hadn't done my job, then the guys would begin to fizzle away and fail. But I had done my job at that point. The guys would have had mission success without me. They would have been just fine. They would have crushed it. They would have continued to be as successful and productive as we were for the remainder of the deployment, for the remainder of the mission.
But you
The
were the leader
mission,
of the group. So
yeah,
what does that mean?
it means leadership is overrated. It means that we can do what we need to do, and we can actually kill the leader, as I say. What we do in the Navy SEAL teams, we'll actually run training scenarios so that, hey, should I die, should I meet my fate, or even just get injured and pull off the battlefield, how do we then go from there, and how do we progress, right? How does the team step up? How does the next guy in charge rise to the level of what the leader was actually doing? How do you create a self-led team? And so I talk about it in the book on how do you do that? How do you define it? How do you develop? How do you sustain it? But it starts at the very, very beginning with change from the inside out, and making sure that you as a leader are not creating this environment where you have to be leaned on for every single decision. We see that time and time, all
Yeah.
the time, in organizations all over the world, as you know.
So you take all that plus your COO experience, and now you have this organization called Culture Force.
That's right.
and you can help companies navigate their way through that. If I'm running a business, what are the warning signs that I might need services from you?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, first things first is, are you dealing with an attrition issue? Are employees nonstop complaining and you're like, man, we feel like all we are dealing with is complaints or attrition issues? This is one that I love. We feel like we have to micromanage to achieve productivity or success or mission success. And if we don't micromanage the teams, then the job just doesn't get done. If we don't have constant check-ins with project managers, the jobs aren't meeting milestones. A lot of those issues obviously can be improved, can be changed, can be even removed with our focus and how we help organizations to do that. But it really depends. Every organization is different, but for the most part, guess what? We all know this. We all say it. We all believe it to a degree that technology is amazing. The rise of AI, it's amazing. There's nothing wrong with any of it, but none of it happens without people. It just doesn't. And so, why is 85% of America frustrated or literally hates their boss? 85% of America, Pete, hate their boss. But when we talk with leaders and organizations, there is many times a hesitancy to run analysis and go, well, that's not my organization. That's not my group. That's not us.
If I'm thinking we have attrition problems in my company and I'm thinking, well, that is a problem, I'm thinking I need to step up my leadership. Your message is, yeah, the leader needs to step up. But I think your book is really about make sure everybody knows their jobs and you empower them. That's the essence of the book, right? That it's not about you, the leader, it's about how you lead them to lead themselves.
That's right. I believe we did a great job dissecting the mythos surrounding the archetypal litter, arguing that the collective efforts of a team often eclipse the contributions of any single individual. We believe that this contrarian stance is timely. It's really timely in an era where leadership seminars and these self help groups or tomes reign supreme. Self help is the number one book type out there. It is number one type of genre of book out there, right? Great. Nothing wrong with furthering yourself and getting better. There is nothing wrong with that at all. When you're good, when you've achieved a goodness, come read book number two, because you can't help others be better individuals if you're not centered. But when you're good and when you've gotten yourself centered, come on over. Let's focus on the team. Let's get to book two. Let's help others be good leaders. Let's help others have self leadership within their jobs, within their projects, within their missions. But this is quite a challenge a lot of times because what is all of social media? What is all of marketing and all of the nonsense that's out there right now is just saying, you can never stop. You can never stop. We always need to achieve better. I mean, it's
Now,
nonstop
that seems like as a SEAL, that's kind of almost in your mantra, but why do we have that wrong?
because there's no I in SEAL,
Mm.
right? It's a team. There's a SEAL team, right? We operate as teams. Now, we have to be proficient and efficient at the individual level, at the individual shooter level. And there's no denying that. And that's why it takes 3.5 years to make an entry level Navy SEAL. Arguments have been said on how long it will take to make a really, truly solid quality sales individual. And every industry is different, but it can take time, is my point. The same with obviously a doctor. It takes 8 years for just basic medicine to get through med school, and then another 2 to 3 years as a residency, and then another 2 to 3 years in your practice. And you know the deal. My point is that it does take time, but once you're through that, now it's time to refine everything. When the Navy SEALs, just to reiterate, that initial period of 3.5 years of training and qualification is just to get you out the door. If you were to join a SEAL team and you're in my troop and you're right out of the basic and the qualification period, it's like, hey, man, thank you. Hey, John Doe, thank you so much for joining and becoming one of the world's elite. I'm so grateful that you went through this. I'm so grateful that you're here. But now it's time for you to sit down and learn from all of the other guys who have been around a little while. And guess what their job is, though? Their job is to elevate him. And so once you get past that point, then like I said, their job is to elevate that brand new individual. But all of marketing and social media just wants us to live in that first 3-year period.
So when you're working with clients, do you map that to hiring profiles? Like, yes, hire rock stars, but you want rock stars that work well with others. Is that just like
Oh,
central?
one of my favorite questions. So there's this buzzword in the CHRO world these days. I'm sure you've heard of it. Is we hire for culture fit. We don't say that. In fact, we disagree with it. We hire for culture improvement. Improvement is much different than we need you to fit this box of what we're trying to put out there. Well, are you going to be what we are? What we are? I don't care. Who cares? Why wouldn't we not want to bring people in that are going to help us elevate and
Uh,
help us improve this culture that we have
Does
are
this make
putting?
you controversial with some
Oh, y-
CEOs and their
oh,
CHROs?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
big time. Because it's challenging. Then they go, how do we do that, Kyle? How do we put those identifiers in place to help us recruit and attract talent to do just that? And so then we go, okay, well, let's go through the motivators. Let's go through the frustrators, right? Every individual is very, very different on what motivates them. Hiring practices have come a long way, but at the same time, we've kind of joked because everyone thinks that money is the number one motivator.
Mhm.
Well, it's actually not. Competitive compensation, albeit a lot of us want it, we all say we want it, but if we're going to truly look inside of ourselves on what makes a positive work environment for all of us, everyone's a little different. And money, oftentimes, when no one's looking, when you're taking that survey in the quiet of your house late at night or early in the morning, it usually comes in as number 8.
Mhm.
What comes in higher is challenging work, recognition and appreciation, career growth and advancement, a work life balance. Some people that have kids really are focused right now on being able to provide flexible work arrangements with paid time off so they can go and enjoy and do a great vacation. Some people really want autonomy and empowerment to make decisions, take ownership of projects, and have a sense of control over their work. Some people really desire just a positive work environment. I talk about this quite a bit with team guys because I help mentor and encourage transitioning veterans as they're coming out of service. I tell them time and time again, hey guys, what you're going to find is you're not going to recreate the Navy SEAL community, but what you're going to find very unique is the culture that's going to attract you. What do I mean by that? You guys might think that you want to go into high tech. You might think you want to go into marketing. You might think you want to go into AI. You might think you want to go into manufacturing, or you might want to think you want to go to private equity or investment banking. Remove the industry. And in fact, if you guys start looking for the desired environment, the desired culture that's going to attract you, I guarantee it, you're going to find it in every industry, even industries that you didn't even know existed. I have seen it time and time again where I've gone to a manufacturing facility and you're like, whoa, this is incredible, guys. You guys are nailing this out of the park. What is that?
Yeah.
Oh, we're really focused on our organizational culture here. We're focused on the teams. We're focusing on self-led teams. We're focused on giving back to our teams. And when you feel that vibe that you want to be a part of, that attracts, that creates that magnet
Yeah.
culture that attracts talent that wants to be a part of it.
So we're going to start to wrap up now. Leadership is overrated because
Leadership is overrated because how can we lose a leader in one of the world's most elite organizations in the world, the Navy SEAL community, and then we still thrive? We improve, we get better, we innovate. How can Christianity lose Jesus and it grows?
uh,
Jesus' message grows because he developed 12 disciples,
mhm.
right? When we have this premise of, hey, it's got to be me, what I really tell people is, are you sure? Are you sure that it has to be you?
I'm going to leave it right there.
Right, right.
And the folks will bring up a picture of your book here, and you can see what an awesome cover it is, where to get it, and also Culture Force is who you want to talk to have these difficult discussions to get your companies on a better track. It's not necessarily simple or easy, even though some of the concepts are. But anyway, thank you, Kyle, for being with us. Really appreciate you. And thanks everybody for tuning in to CEO Growth Talks at Chief Outsiders. Take care.
Thanks for having me.